Thank you very much, Chairman Hatch, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to work on these issues in a bipartisan way. Colleagues, since the day that the IRS opened its doors, scam artists have been hatching up slick new ways of stealing taxpayer dollars from the Treasury. What's new is the rip-off artists are now stealing Americans' identities and personally threatening them on an industrial scale while directly robbing them of their hard-earned money. The fraudsters are constantly dreaming up new tactics, and then they milk them for all they're worth before they start getting caught. Then it's lather, rinse, and repeat. On to the next scam, always one step ahead of the law. Today, the committee will closely examine several of the fraudsters' latest strategies that are plaguing taxpayers. The one that's hitting Oregonians hardest is the fake phone call demanding money or personal information on behalf of the IRS. In fact, these calls were the #1 consumer complaint registered with the Oregon Department of Justice just last year. Not everybody knows that the IRS simply does not cold call individuals making demands or threats. So it's pretty clear from my vantage point there is a lot more work to be done to defeat this scourge. Given the sophistication of this criminal activity and the fact that a lot of it comes from overseas, this sure looks to me like an emerging type of organized crime. So the real question is, what is it going to take to root it out and get the bad actors on the sidelines? What's the role for more prosecutions, stronger deterrence, more cops on the beat? And what's the best way of getting the word out so that taxpayers aren't tricked into surrendering their life savings to some intimidating voice on the other end of the phone line? But even if our people manage to avoid the phone calls, you can bet that the crooks find other ways to profit. Tax preparation software has become the scammers' new fast lane. These sharks manage to acquire a taxpayer's personal data from the black market or hack into commercial databases, and then they file false returns electronically. The victims may not find out until much later in tax season, and by then it's just too late. Already there have been thousands of reports like this in 2015. As we'll hear today, some software vendors aren't doing enough to help prevent fraud. In my view, part of the challenge is getting the states, internet tax services, and the IRS on the same wavelength. They've got to communicate and work together to make sure that the criminals can't just, in a nimble fashion, slide from one jurisdiction to the next as they rip off more unsuspecting Americans. Now, some taxpayers may choose to avoid software, but not even a paid tax preparer is guaranteed to be safe. In fact, many of them don't meet any standards for competence. There are far too many of these con artists out there willing and able to prey on the people who come through their doors. In some of the most offensive cases, they secretly falsify their victims' returns to boost the refunds, and then they pocket the difference. And once the tax season ends, the crooks disappear from the storefronts they occupied, and there's no trace on where they've gone. A few states like mine have rules in place to help shield the taxpayer from this kind of ripoff. Most states do not. So Senator Cardin and I have introduced the Taxpayer Protection and Preparer Proficiency Act at the beginning of this Congress to give all Americans the security they deserve. Our colleague, Senator Nelson, is also a leader on this issue of keeping taxpayers safe from identity theft and fraud. And all of us wish, as I indicated to Chairman Hatch, to work on this in a bipartisan way. The bottom line is there is no end to the ingenuity of the con artists. So my hope this morning is we'll get some fresh ideas for catching up to this wave of fraud and stopping it. Obviously, it cannot come soon enough. We've got a distinguished panel here today. I'm especially pleased that Ms. Ellen Clem, the Director of Consumer Outreach and Education in the Oregon Attorney General's Office, is here. My thanks to Ms. Clem, to all our witnesses. Mr. Chairman, I look forward to working with you and our colleagues on this in a bipartisan way.